Taking a look at the United States, Lael Brainard, who is Biden's nominee for the country's top banking regulator role, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, laid out scary scenarios emerging from cryptocurrencies in a confirmation hearing before the Senate Banking Committee. Specifically, she cautioned that big tech companies like Facebook could control the payment infrastructure in the United States if private digital currencies were allowed to thrive, potentially displacing the value of the US dollar. And she received some mixed reception from lawmakers, but it could be a potential headwind for Bitcoin if she is confirmed. The infrastructure bill was signed into law by President Joe Biden, which is leading lawmakers to consider crypto provision amendments. Brad, do you have any insights into that?
Not anything super deep.
Or fair enough. Whether or not that might affect price or not. Another thing we're looking at is the Craig Wright case.
I would say, it's kind of it's out there. We had this week of prices being down this week, and it's probably priced in at this point.
It's nothing really new.
We're also keeping track of the Craig Wright case. Christy, any updates on that?
Yeah, I just want to, right off the top, make sure that people are extremely clear that the case is about business relationships that may or may not have existed between Dave Kleiman, who passed away in 2013, and Craig Wright, and whether or not the estate of Dave Kleiman is owed any proceeds. That could be Bitcoin, that could be regular money, that could be intellectual property from Craig Wright. It is not necessarily about the Bitcoin stash that belongs to Satoshi, because at this point, we don't even know if the Bitcoin stash that belongs to Satoshi has anything to do with Craig Wright. So whether or not money is awarded to Dave Kleiman may have absolutely nothing to do with the Satoshi stash. It is entirely likely it has nothing to do with the Satoshi stash that is, has a whole pile of Bitcoin. I don't anticipate that flooding the market anytime soon, because also Craig Wright has not yet even proven that he can control the keys to that amount of Bitcoin. I'm not saying that I'm not going to, give any judgment on how this case is going to turn out. But I am saying that I can't imagine why people would be concerned at this point in the game that suddenly millions and millions of Bitcoin are going to flood the market from that stash. It just doesn't quite add up yet. So there's that. What we do know is this week, Craig Wright finished his testimony. He was called to the stand on the side of the plaintiffs. That would be the Kleiman's estate. This week, we started the defense, his defense of his own business interests, and we're in the middle of that. And it'll probably take another week or two.
I'll just throw in, just checking the markets here. BSV, which is the Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision cryptocurrency, which is, closely associated with Craig Wright and his team. It sold off this week. This was kind of the big hope of a lot of the people in that camp that, Wright would be revealed through this trial to be Satoshi, and this would cause BSV to spike and Bitcoin to crash. And I was just looking this week, BSV's off 13% and Bitcoin's off 11%. So BSV has actually fallen more than Bitcoin this week. So if you use that, obviously there's a lot going on in the Bitcoin market and only one thing going on in the BSV market. But if you maybe that's a gauge of how that trial is going. And to Christy's point, there's not much. It doesn't seem to be working if that's the plan.
I think
the other one that you mentioned that could be affecting markets in terms of a sell-off was the Mt. Gox, the acceptance of the final proposal by the trustee, and that was rubber stamped this week. Mt. Gox creditors voted on the final proposal that would see a payout for them. Now, that money could come into the markets, but not until probably late summer. And keep in mind, it's not just Bitcoin that the creditors will be receiving. They'll also be receiving Japanese yen and I think US dollars and Bitcoin Cash. So it's not going to all be a Bitcoin payout, and it's not going to be the full amount either. They'll be getting a fraction of what they lost initially. It's still a tidy sum, but not what they're getting in full. And it will be split in amongst different currencies. And a lot of chatter that I'm hearing and seeing on various sites is there's probably still going to be a good amount of hodling happening among those people who get their Bitcoin. They're not all going to dump and run. So I think I don't know how much of an impact on the market that's going to have.
Well, taking a look at
They've
next week,
all these years for that Bitcoin.
We got the holidays happening, Thanksgiving holiday. Could we possibly see a bit of a surge with, folks giving money, flush with cash, maybe some investment into Bitcoin, more buyers than sellers? Brad?
I mean, that's super interesting, Christine. I hadn't really thought about that. But yeah, I mean, what if crypto suddenly became like the fun, there's like whatever, Beanie Babies or it's like something fun that people give every year, And I think in the past, it has been true in China with some around their holidays where they'll give crypto. But one of the ideas that I was thinking about is, people have been pent up and if you read all the reports on the economy, people actually do have tons of money. There's like more than $1 trillion sitting in bank accounts. And, like inflation's going up and all of a sudden if we get all these sales and there's discounts and people think might be the last chance they can buy a ton of stuff. Like, what if people retail sales just go nuts this holiday season and maybe that pushes inflation higher, unexpectedly. I don't know. I just, with all the supply chain bottlenecks and everything, if stuff runs out, I was just thinking that could be an interesting dynamic going into the next couple months.
Maybe we'll see a Santa Claus rally at the end of the year for Bitcoin and the crypto markets. Christy, last word for you, but we got to wrap up after this. So 30 seconds. What are you looking forward to next week? And I hear Taproot might be among them.
Yeah, how Taproot happened. Yes, you'll hear from me about Taproot again. Taproot happened on Sunday. It kicked in at midnight on Sunday morning. And what we're looking at next week is the slow progress, and that's fine because everyone's being careful, but nodes are upgrading, mining pools are upgrading and starting very gradually to mine Taproot transactions. Following that, we'll probably see some wallets getting on board, the exchange is getting on board, but we're all waiting for the nodes to upgrade. So here's the thing. If you've got a node, if you're running a node, go and make sure that your node is upgraded. We all need you to be doing that. And that's my final word.